searching, solving mysteries in the night. Chasing shadows, finding answers, shining bright light. No one's left behind, in the darkness all alone. With a heart like a siren, she brings the lost ones home. Silent cries in the dark no longer have to be, for justice wheels keep turning, granny on the beat. Broken voices find their power, call out hope again. When these crime busters run, no victims left in vain. Bravery in her veins, truth she won't disguise. With a fire in her eyes, she's got nothing to deny. Granny fights for justice, never backs down from the call. For the voiceless and the missing, she'll stand tall.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Hello, Ginger Girl, dreaming. Good to see you guys. I saw that Justin is live, so I just can't win. Doesn't matter what time I go on. That's why I just decided to keep it at 5 and be done with it. Oh, goodness. But, I guess, Seth's going to be on at 7, so that makes sense, right? So I did want to share a post from at night from today. So make sure everybody can see it all right. Oh, goodness. Okay. All right. So One World Statement on January Data Security Incident, March 29, 2025. The data security incident first confirmed in January 2025 remains under active federal review. One World and its division at night are fully cooperating with federal authorities, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. In addition, we are consulting with the United States Secret Service, USSS, and preparing to coordinate with various state attorney generals in jurisdictions where potentially impacted individuals reside. This breach involved an unauthorized attempt to access limited internal materials, including personal or organizational identifiers related to staff, contributors, and investigative affiliates. Thanks to preemptive safeguards and swift containment protocols, the attempted breach was isolated and our systems remained operational throughout. In the interest of transparency and best practices, One World is providing all relevant documentation and technical artifacts to appropriate federal authorities for continued review. If you believe your information may have been affected, or if you wish to confirm your status, please contact januarybreach@night.agency. We remain committed to protecting our people, our data, and our mission, and to cooperating with all relevant agencies for as long as necessary. At Night has remained vigilant, implementing strict protocols to detect and neutralize such attempts while continuing its mission undeterred. At Night urges anyone encountering stolen, shared, or distributed materials related to this breach to report them immediately by emailing tips@manhunts.one or by calling 844-922-3236. Okay, so that is something that they have put out there today. Hello, Jackie. Good to see you. So I wanted to share that. Oh, thank you, Ginger. I like to try to go with the seasons and make it warm and welcoming. But tonight I really wanted to talk about, we all know that there are 5 CPS reports out there that we don't know anything about, right? And that's the way it should be, because those shouldn't be shared until or unless a trial comes, and I'm sure some of that information will be shared. But for now, that information should not be shared. But just knowing that they're there, right? 5 within a span of 2 years, to me, that seems like a lot. And to me, it seems like CPS dropped the ball, right? I mean, what is in those reports that maybe could have it, I mean, if Seth had been made aware of them, could that have prevented this whole issue with Sebastian's disappearance? I'm not saying that CPS is directly responsible for Sebastian's disappearance, but I am saying that possibly they could be held responsible for not doing their due diligence. Had they let Seth know, had they investigated to find out if he really was in Sebastian's life, instead of listening to two parents who were accused of abuse by Sebastian. I mean, did they ask Sebastian? So what is in those reports that caused him to leave, right? Oh, Jackie, I'm sorry to hear that. There's been a lot of that lately. K9 cat was just killed in front of her the other day. That's difficult. I'm so sorry for your loss, honey. Law enforcement is keeping one confidential and not sharing that one with Seth. I know nothing about that one. But we started doing an investigation, right, into CPS. Has there been problems? Is this with Sebastian just an isolated incident? Were cases being closed that shouldn't have been closed, right? Well, when you look at CPS, DCS, doesn't matter what the initials are, it's all the same. Department of Children's Services, Child Protection Services, it doesn't matter what initials you use, it's all the same. When you look at that in Tennessee, it's rather scary, guys. So I am going to share my screen with you. And let's listen to the first one, which was back in 2023, which is not that long ago, guys.
Children handcuffed, pepper sprayed, hogtied, and beaten. Those just some of the shocking accusations Tennessee's Department of Children's Services now faces. It's in a new class action lawsuit just filed in federal court. The complaint alleges the state of Tennessee houses children with disabilities in prison-like facilities and subjects them to violence and abuse. Now, investigative reporter Ben Hall, we know, has covered this issue extensively. Tonight, our Hunter Hoagland has been looking through the lawsuit. What stood out to you here, Hunter?
I mean, Rory, our team has been diligently going through that 114-page lawsuit all day. And I can tell you from reading it, there are some really just deeply disturbing allegations in there. Everything we are about to tell you, attorneys say happened to kids while in DCS custody. Now, according to that lawsuit filed from attorneys with the Disability Rights Tennessee group, children described being in solitary confinement for 20 23 hours a day, not allowed to attend school, sleeping on bare bed frames all next to cockroaches, and then being beaten by other kids. Now, there are 3 children connected to this lawsuit, all of whom have some kind of disability. One of them says he was beaten more than 30 times by other kids while in DCS custody. Another says a DCS worker shackled her to the floor and then sprayed her naked body with pepper spray. Now, I went one-on-one with the plaintiff's attorneys today, who says what DCS is doing is not only illegal, but unconstitutional.
I guess I would say, to young people who have had these experiences in DCS custody, to parents of young people who have had these experiences, we just want you to know that we believe you, that, some of these things that have happened are not okay.
Jasmine.
I find that interesting that she said, I want them to know we believe you, right? Because what was one of the things that Chris talked about with the social worker and Sebastian? That he wasn't believed and he was told not to lie. Is it happening too much where children are not being believed about what's happening to them? Guys, is this a trend? Let me look at chat here a second. Okay. So, I've had too much of this today. Honestly, I just did a video that is going to be coming out on the 31st in the morning. My morning clips about a child who went through some horrific abuse. So just bear with me as I try to get through this tonight because it's been a rough day, guys. Oh my goodness.
Miller, who you just heard from, says what they're looking for here is a policy change. She says it is beyond time for DCS to comply with the law and accommodate children with disabilities. Now, the Department of Education is also named here in this lawsuit. We reached out to their office along with DCS this morning. They still have not gotten back with us. Now, we are going to stay on top of this. In the meantime, though, if you'd like to read that lawsuit in full, it's on our website, newschannel5.com.
And so here is about that lawsuit. The lawsuit charges Tennessee Department of Children's Services violated kids' constitutional rights. Make sure you guys can see this okay. Okay. 2 teenage boys with disabilities were denied their regular medications and allowed to suffer assaults while being held in a Department of Children's Services lockup for troubled youth, according to a lawsuit making sweeping claims that Tennessee has violated federal and state law and children's constitutional rights. The lawsuit filed last week in a Memphis federal court detailed the experiences of 2 kids, D'Angelo Turner and Brian Taylor, both detained inside the DCS-run Wilder Youth Development Center at different points in 2021. Taylor suffered injuries that sent him to the hospital after being assaulted by fellow inmates in June 2021, the suit said. Turner was assaulted by 2 security guards who joined other youth in the attack, then denied medical treatment from the injuries he suffered, it said. Both young men also had psychiatric diagnoses for which they took medications. Once they got to Wilder, according to the suit, officials replaced the regular medications, disrupting their care. The incident involving Mr. Taylor and Turner and others like them demonstrate that the employees of Wilder adopted and enforced a policy of deliberate indifference to inmate health and safety, the lawsuit said. The lawsuit echoes alarming incidents at Wilder brought to light last year by Disability Rights Tennessee and Youth Law Center in a report titled Designed to Fail. The nonprofits detailed dangerous, deplorable, and inexcusable conditions inside the Wilder facility located in Fayette County, just outside Memphis. The report chronicled physical and essay abuse by staff, isolation practices that amounted to abuse, failures to educate and rehabilitate youth, many with disabilities, and a lack of appropriate mental health treatment. The report also found Wilder staff relied heavily on psychotropic medications to keep kids under control. A spokesperson for DCS declined on Tuesday to comment on pending litigation and did not answer questions about the number of youth currently housed at the 120-bed Wilder facility or to detail any steps the agency has taken to address concerns raised by the nonprofit organization's reports. What's publicly known is that in September, the State Building Commission approved DCS's plans to bring safety and security upgrades to Wilder, while the agency moved forward with plans to build a new Wilder facility and a new Woodland Hills Youth Development Center, a similar facility for boys in Nashville. In recent years, DCS has come under sustained public scrutiny for a series of missteps in caring for kids in state custody, including incidents of abuse or neglected kids forced to sleep on office floors, failure to investigate allegations of SA and physical abuse in its treatment facilities, high caseloads for social workers, and a disgruntled and demoralized workforce. Commissioner Margie Quinn was tapped to lead the $1.1 billion agency in April 2022, and lawmakers have approved significant funding increases to train and hire caseworkers, add traditional housing and assessment centers, and improve physical spaces that house children and teens. Taylor spent 12 months at Woodland Hills before being released in December 2021. He died in March 2023. The law did not detail his cause of death. He is represented in the lawsuit by his father, Raymond Taylor. Turner was detained in the facility from October to December 2021. The lawsuit names DCS, its former commissioner Jennifer Nichols, Quinn and Wilder's superintendent, captain of the guard, and 2 unnamed guards. It alleges they displayed a deliberate interference and failure to prevent foreseeable harm, violations with the American with Disabilities Act, and federal education law that protects students with disabilities. The lawsuit is seeking at least $700,000 in damages. And of course, the attorneys declined to comment. What is happening to our children? Yeah, everybody's been having some rough times, right? From what I am seeing, Tennessee has been having many serious issues with the Child Protective Services Department for the last 10 years. It is, and it's just heartbreaking, guys. Our children need to be protected. And when they're not protected, when they're put in facilities like this and they're not being treated right, I mean, pepper spray on a nude body, being shackled, come on. What is going on? You know, they're coming out of homes and, you know, a lot of these have disabilities and they're coming out of homes that didn't protect and take care of them, only to be put into these facilities where they're being even more brutally abused. That's wrong. On so many levels, that's wrong. Our children deserve better. Hi, K9. Good to see you. Hope you're doing better today. The next one is from the Tennessee Tribune, and this was in August of 2021. DCS Internal Affairs covered up dozens of complaints. Nashville, Tennessee. Last year, 21 workers in foster care in the DCS Clarksville office wanted to file a class action lawsuit against the department head, Heather Jeffries, for harassment, discrimination, retaliation, and malfeasance. Nicole Ramey counted more than 3 dozen complaints against Jeffries when she worked in human resources for DCS. The Clarksville foster care staff couldn't find an attorney to take their case. I wonder why that is, guys. We talked about corruption in Tennessee, right? I'm not going to go any further than that. But the Clarksville foster care staff couldn't find an attorney to take their case. The legal barriers to class action lawsuits in a right-to-work state like Tennessee is a hill too steep to climb, especially for state workers who want to sue the government. So, M. Hayes went through normal DCS channels to file her complaint. An Iraqi war veteran, she interviewed 7 times for supervisor positions in foster care in Clarksville. Haynes said 3 times she was not given veterans preference and would have been selected had Jeffries followed the rules. I worked for DCS for 7 years. I thoroughly enjoyed it up until the last year, Haynes said. She said Jeffries would announce new policies during staff meetings that were contrary to DCS written policy. DCS required certain tasks to be completed within 90 days. Ms. Jeffries wanted us to do it in 30 days, Haynes said. If you pissed her off, you had to come to detention, she said. The detention started in May 2020, right in the middle of the COVID-19 lockdown when everyone was supposed to be working from home. If you were on her list, then you had to come in and work in front of her, Haynes said. 30 people met in a crowded conference room with their laptops to complete work that was due within 14 days. Multiple caseworkers contracted COVID and we still had to come in. You just had to have a mask, she said. It became less about the children and families and it was all about reports and numbers, Haynes said. Haynes filed a complaint in June 2020. They didn't do anything. Then in August, Haynes got a call from Internal Affairs that Jeffrey had filed a complaint against her for violating HIPAA regulations. Tellingly, Jeffries filed her action against Hayes about something that had happened 4 months earlier, and 1 month after Haynes filed her complaint against Jeffries. It was pure retaliation for filing my grievance against her for unfair hiring practice, she said. I never did what they said I did. Haynes had 2 children who needed temporary foster placement, and she wanted to keep them out of state custody. So she told the 76-year-old father to go see her pastor and find out if there was anyone in the congregation who might want to take the 2 boys, 15 and 16 years old. I never revealed their names to my pastor or anything else that violated HIPAA regulations. The teenagers were placed in state care, and Haynes got 2 days suspension without pay from Jeffries for trying to find them a safe haven. She went the extra mile but got punished for it. Ironically, the DCS recruits foster parents with requirements, explanations, and links on becoming a foster parent webpage. DCS Internal Affairs Director Antif Williams would not discuss the case, but since Haynes never got back those 2 days' pays, we can assume Jeffrey's complaint was upheld. Haynes said her pastor backed up her side of the story, but it made no difference to Williams. Haynes' original complaint against Jeffries remained in limbo for months and was never resolved. Summer slipped into fall. Williams told me it was still under investigation, Haynes told the Tribune, but it wasn't. Williams swept it under the rug and planned to keep it there. In December, it got to the point that every day it was something new, something ridiculous. It was petty. They had fired so many people at that point, I was walking on eggshells and I felt like I was going to be the next one. It didn't matter that I was vested. I've seen people who worked 14 years and they walked in and fired them and walked them to the door. Haynes said Commissioner Jennifer Nichols a resignation letter December 8th, giving 30 days notice. Nichols forwarded the letter to Williams. Haynes talked to Williams the next day. H have assured me they'd get to the bottom of it, Haynes said. She filed the paperwork to reopen her case on December 15th. Send me your private information and we'll send you the report and we'll be in contact. Williams waited until January 13, 2021 to reopen the case when Haynes was no longer a DCS employee. That 2-week delay ensured Jeffries would not be held accountable. 7 months went by. Haynes asked Williams for his status report last month. Wayne sent her an email on July 13, 2021. He said since she was no longer a DCS employee, she was not allowed to access internal reports, nor did she have a right to know what happened to the investigation of her original complaint against Jeffries. The Tribune has interviewed more than a dozen DCS employees who have filed grievances against their supervisors. When supervisors discipline subordinates, the consequences are swift and often vindictive. When employees file complaints against their supervisors, the investigations are slow and often are never completed. So as you can see here, it sounds like there's a lot going behind the scenes in DCS. It's about the numbers. It's not about the kids. And even when the caseworkers do try to do something decent, right? Nothing happens, right? Or they get disciplined for it. Hello, SRB. Good to see you, Jackie Taylor. So yeah, I mean, there's just, it goes on and on and on, guys. It doesn't end. And it really makes you wonder. Now, I have heard that the caseworker that worked on Sebastian's case was fired. I don't know if that's true or not. I would sincerely hope so. But what is going on? You know, these are government agencies. Our children are the ones suffering, whether it's internal garbage going on like this last one, you know, complaints being covered up, or whether it's children being shackled and abused, pepper sprayed. Why? You know, our children should be, you know, our most valuable resource, in my opinion. Anything to do with our children should be given the funding that's needed. You know, back when my children were very small, the rumor out there, I never had any issues with Child Protective Services or any reports, anything like that. But the rumor always was that they took your kids at the drop of a hat. Now, it seems like they take the kids pretty quickly, although in Sebastian's case, they didn't. I mean, they aren't putting our children first. They aren't. It's horrible. It's horrible. And I don't know, you know, what is the answer, right? Other than, you know, because it's by each county, right? Each state, you know, maybe we need to be careful about who we're voting in for state legislatures. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, guys, But I do know that something's got to be done because our children need to be protected. And when I'm hearing that disabled children are being shackled and abused and beaten and pepper sprayed, those people need to have the same thing happen to them, in my opinion. I'm not one for violence, but you don't do that to children. You know, and taking away the medication that kept them stabilized once they get into one of these homes from DCS, that is total bull. You don't take away, what are they doing? They're trying to cut the costs. That's what they're doing. Because some of these medications we all know are pretty expensive. So if the state has taken over, they have to pay the cost of that medication instead of an insurance from the parents, right? That I agree with you 100%, Canine. People need to learn to care for their children. We wouldn't have this problem. If you don't care for them, don't have them. Yeah. I agree. I mean, and yet then I think of, there are people out there who will adopt, who want children. Those who will adopt, typically their backgrounds are looked into, right? They're going to be loving parents if they're truly wanting to go that extra mile to adopt a child. Well, then, if you cannot take care of your children, give them up for adoption. Give them to someone who will take care of them. Right? But when DCS comes in and then puts these kids into homes, and these homes are not being checked like they should. And yeah, Ginger says, what are their priorities? Children are the future of every country. They are. And so I think back to the 5 CPS reports, and you have to wonder, is DCS responsible that Sebastian is gone? Because if they had done their due diligence, if they had let Seth know, Sebastian might be here today. I don't know. I don't want to say, after hearing about what's going on in DCS in Tennessee, and it's all over, guys. It's Clarksville, it's Memphis, it's Nashville, it's all over. I don't want to say they could have taken him out of the home, because I would have hated to see where he would have ended up. If these places are like this, I wouldn't have wanted to see him end up there either, right? But then we get to, where is he? Who has him? Who has him? Is he being taken care of? I can honestly feel Seth's heart when he says that. Who has him? It's everywhere with Child Protective Services. Yeah, I only honestly did the study on Tennessee today and once I found that, and with the video that I did this morning that's coming out on the 31st, I'm telling you guys, I had had enough. I was like, okay, I don't want to know anymore because it was horrible. I saw Seth comment the DCS doesn't have mandates to inform the biodad of abuse. That's wrong on so many levels. In my opinion, they should be doing their due diligence and investigating all aspects in the case. I mean, if a child is being abused, why aren't they talking to the bio dad who lives and has him every couple weeks, right? Why aren't they talking to him to find out what's going on? To me, they may not have the mandate, but they should be doing it. They should be doing it. I've got one more video I wanted to show you guys.
We don't have enough DCS employees. If you haven't heard that, I'm telling you, it's near collapse.
An urgent warning from a juvenile court judge in Knox County. He told the legislative committee the Department of Children's Services is near collapse. There are not enough caseworkers to care for the kids. Good evening, I'm Vicki Yates.
And I'm Rory Johnston. Yeah, a months-long News Channel 5 investigation details exactly what the judge is talking about. We take a rare look behind the scenes at DCS to reveal how the department failed a mother and her 10 children.
Investigative reporter Ben Hall has worked tirelessly on this case. And Ben, you discovered that DCS had been alerted 35 different times about these kids.
Well, that's right, Vicki. And despite all of those referrals, the kids did not get the services they desperately needed. She was in court this summer, facing 9 counts of child neglect.
Okay, so I'm going to put a disclaimer out here about this because I honestly agree with, wasn't it K9 that said you shouldn't be having children if you can't take care of them? So, in my opinion, her comment goes along with this because this woman had 10 children, guys. Ridiculous. So when they said at the beginning of this that the DCS let the mother and the children down, maybe let the children down, but the mother is equally as responsible, in my opinion. But we're going to listen to it. You guys let me know what you think.
Involving her 10 kids. Our investigation found Jacqueline Mangram's current charges came after years in which she was repeatedly investigated by the Department of Children's Services and Metro Police.
I think the crux of the issue is that we have a woman who is in dire need of rehabilitation and rehab.
Mangram's defense attorney referenced her history of drug addiction and mental health issues. But despite 35 investigations by DCS dating back to 2004, Mangrum managed to keep custody of her kids year after.
35 DCS complaints. Sebastian's 5 DCS complaints are nothing compared to this woman's. Common sense doesn't need to be mandated. You're right, K9. You are really right. And I agree, Ginger. DCS is partly responsible for the disappearance of Sebastian. But look at that. Okay, so a woman who needs to be rehabilitated. Fine. Take her doggone kids away, give them to another relative, whatever you have to do. In the beginning, when all these complaints started coming out, although I don't know what's worse, put them in one of them homes. I don't know. Foster homes. Something. Maybe it should have been mandated that she was put on birth control or something. 10 children. This isn't, in my opinion, all DCS's fault. This woman should not have kept having children.
after year.
This is Jacqueline Mangrum and her children. She's currently charged with child abuse and child endangerment.
Mangrum has been in jail since February when she defied a court order and took her 5 youngest kids from a family member.
In regards to Miss Mangrum,
Police found her and her kids shortly after the alert, but it was just the latest in a long history of problems. In June of last year, police found 4 of Mangrum's children near a dumpster on Murfreesboro Pike. According to court documents, the children were without shoes, food, and water. The youngest, a 3-year-old, had walked through broken glass and her feet were bleeding. Police went to their apartment and found the door was open. It was absolutely filthy. The kids were taken by ambulance to Children's Hospital, where they were placed into a glass quarantine due to lice infestation. Police called the Department of Children's Services. But 1 month later, officers found 4 of Mangrum's children in this parking lot after getting a call for a child being beaten and choked. Police reported the children were filthy. They had rotting teeth. Their clothes looked way too small. They did not have car seats or shoes. According to court documents, DCS came and the kids went home with a grandparent.
The system failed these kids. It did not take care of these kids.
Former state representative Sherry Jones fought to reform DCS during her 24 years in the legislature. She was disgusted that DCS kept being alerted to problems with the kids, but caseworkers didn't get them help that they needed.
They weren't moved to a better place. They weren't given any services. They were always out on the street. They never had anything.
DCS investigations are confidential, but according to court testimony, Mangrum has been involved in more than 150 police investigations. We looked at police records and reviewed court testimony to put together how often DCS was contacted and how little the department did.
That's the first DCS investigation.
Prosecutors revealed in court Mangrum's first DCS investigation was when she tested positive for cocaine when a child was born.
On July 7th, 2004, she gave birth to a child and she tested positive for drugs.
Mangrum later took the stand and confirmed DCS never found reasons to remove her kids, despite the 35 DCS investigations.
Every case I ever had was closed. They never had reasons to take my children from me.
Another warning sign came in 2013 when officers responded to Old Hickory Boulevard. Mangrum's 1 and 2-year-olds were crossing the busy street alone, in diapers. Mangrum told police she had just fallen asleep and they had wandered off. Once again, police called DCS. Police reports show multiple DCS investigations followed, including allegations of sexual abuse and drug abuse. DCS was called in April of 2020 because Mangrum and 5 of her kids were living in this camper beside the home of a family friend. There were concerns Mangrum had abandoned her kids, but it doesn't appear DCS did anything because this Hendersonville police report 5 months later stated the kids were staying in the camper by themselves and were not registered for school. An officer described the kids as unclean, wearing dirty clothes, looked skinny, possibly malnourished. A truancy officer said they all appeared to have lice.
It's just appalling.
Sherry Jones said too often overworked DCS caseworkers put neglected kids with family members who are also struggling instead of making sure they get the services they need.
They want to put them with a family member because they don't have to pay any money.
In October of last year, this Rutherford County Sheriff's Department report shows Mangrum's kids were living with their grandmother, who was in need of help herself. The report states the grandmother wanted DCS to pick the kids up because she was not able to care for them anymore due to sickness. She said there was an open DCS case, but she had not heard from them. She told deputies Mangrum was threatening her if she did not keep the kids.
If you're going to take care of kids, take care of them. Don't pawn them off on family who cannot afford them themselves and not help them.
DCS would not comment on Mangrum's case, but said whenever possible, DCS tries to divert a child from coming into state custody. Sometimes a parent may agree to place a child with a relative who is willing to care for the child on an unpaid basis.
So there you have it. They want to put the child with a relative because they don't have to pay for it. Right? So why didn't they check into that for Sebastian? Because Sebastian could have gone to live with his dad. Need more money, resources, lower caseloads, more workers. Not an excuse, but part of the problem. It is. It's true. It's not an excuse, but it is part of the problem. And I understand caseworkers wanting to keep kids with a family member. It's better for the kids, right? Than being sent somewhere where they don't know anybody. It's better than them being sent to these homes that we just learned about where they'll be abused. But mostly it's about the numbers and the money, guys. Supervisors have to be, they have to account for what funding are they giving for these children? How much are they putting out there? Yeah. I know SRB, they make me ill too. I have a headache today because of this. But it's an important story to talk about, right? Because when I look at Sebastian, I can't help but wonder, obviously, DCS in Tennessee and maybe everywhere, but DCS in Sebastian's case is partly responsible for why he's gone for whatever reason. They should have, instead of closing cases, right? We heard about that in these videos. Closing cases when they shouldn't be closed. 35 complaints, guys, on this woman. And she gets on the stand crying. They closed so many cases. They never, took my kids away from me. Put her in jail. Oh, man. I have no respect for parents who will not take care of their children. I'm sorry. None. If you can't take care of your children, do something about it. Give them up for adoption. Do something. Don't have them. Go on birth control. There's no reason a woman should have 10 children that she can't take care of. That's incredible, Ginger. I wish it was that way here in the States. Here in Canada, they will remove the baby the moment it is born if the mother has a past with addiction and children's services. You mean they won't let it get to 10 children? I know. Think about those 10 young lives. What kind of, and were they sent, were some of those kids put in that facility in Memphis? Hello, Cheryl. It is, Cheryl. It's very sad. Very sad. Things need to change, right? And I understand trying to put, they gave 5 kids to a grandma. Now, I don't know how old this grandma was. Was she living on Social Security? And they weren't giving her any extra funds to help take care of these kids? And where did the mother learn how to take care of her children, or not take care of her children? Was it from the grandma? I mean, I don't know. Just sad situation in my opinion. Our children are being let down, and there needs to be more of a concentrated effort on focusing on our children all across the board, from the missing to child protective services, schools. Our children are our future. They should be our most valuable resource. And they're not. Oh, that's true. Terrible cycle. These children will have children. What did they learn, guys? What are they learning, right? What are they learning? It's so sad. And I honestly, for the life of me, I can't understand 35 complaints. I thought 5 was horrific. I thought the fact that there was 5 CPS complaints in 2 years in Sebastian's case, I thought that was horrific. But 35? Guys, I know some of the roads they were talking about here. Hickory Boulevard. I've driven on that boulevard many times in Nashville. Murfreesboro Pike. I've been on that road too. Those are busy roads, guys. Super busy roads. And toddlers were walking across those streets. Yeah, it's a failing system. But things need to be put in place. Like Ginger said, if a child is born to a mother that has had addiction or other CPS cases, they take it away. If we're not gonna tie their tubes or give them birth control, which they might not take it anyway, then something has to be done, because we can't. How is a woman allowed to have 10 children, to keep having children, when she's got CPS reports out on her? It's wrong. It's wrong. How was Sebastian allowed to stay in that home when there were 5 reports out? It's wrong. I think that Seth has a good case against DCS. No matter what the law says, if the law says they don't have to let the father know, I don't care. I think they could still have a case. Yes, I agree, Dreaming. More oversight on these kids that are removed and placed in other homes. If these homes are being governed, being funded by the government like that, they need to be, I don't know, like a inspection once a month or every 2 weeks, something like that, right? Need to have inspections done on these homes. Probably more often than once a month, I'm thinking, because things can get shoved under the rug and made to look really nice when you got a month to work on it. But, surprise visits every so often, because they're funded by the government, so they should be. Yeah. I am looking forward to Seth's Live tonight, too. I'm hoping he has a little bit of news. Maybe he'll talk about the America's Most Wanted interview. Unannounced inspections. Absolutely, Jackie. Absolutely. They should be. Whenever the taxpayers' money is being used for that kind of stuff, there should be inspections. Most definitely. I agree. Children need to be a priority. Missing children. I agree. Put off building that football stadium, fund child care organizations, right? Our children need to be first. There's just too much going on, guys. So many things that are wrong, right? I mean, when I first listened to this video that we were watching just now about this woman with the 10 kids, I was angry at what the defense said about this mother needs rehabilitation, blah, blah, blah. Yes, take care of the mother, whatever. But I'm sorry, she's just as responsible. She's their parent. There is help out there. She needed to look for it instead of worrying about her cocaine habit. For one of her children was addicted to cocaine when it was born. And the mother tested positive for cocaine. So, yeah. Things need to change, and when I was researching, all I could think about was how Sebastian was let down. In so many ways. He found his voice, he found his safe place, but DCS dropped the ball. I like what you said, Jackie. It's not rocket science. It's not. It's not rocket science. Our children need to be protected, taken care of, loved. They need to know that they are special and that they're valued and they're worth something. It's wrong on so many levels. It's wrong on so many levels. But yes, as far as Seth's thing tonight, that's coming up at 7:00, about an hour from now. Yeah, about an hour from now, guys. He'll be live, and the link to his live is included at the top of the chat, guys. I pinned it to the top of the chat so you'd have it. Convenient for you guys. Go in there and support him, and he needs all the support he can get, right? I can't imagine what it's like for him to be without his son for a year now. Not knowing if he's okay, if he's being taken care of. You know, I can't imagine all the things that goes through his mind. Right? It's horrible. Study shows that someone goes missing every 40 seconds. I don't understand how we are not screaming from the rooftops for help. Exactly. Guys, there are so many missing people out there. It is impossible to cover them all. It's just impossible. We can't. I mean, every day, you know, on my feed, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, it doesn't matter. I'm sharing at least one extra one, right? mean, I could do, if I did a video on every missing child, well, there's no way I could. There'd be no time in my, I wouldn't, I wouldn't have time to go to the bathroom. There's just not enough time, not enough hours in the day for it. Just wouldn't happen. Because I've thought of doing like a, Monday missing or something. But then who do you pick? Right? Who do you pick to focus on? There's too many. There's just too many. I'll just do it a little early, but I saw this pick, and normally I make my own, but I decided to use this pick and add it kind of to my stuff. The fight to protect our children is one we must fight together. Right? Yeah. Yeah, your cat, but I mean, our fur babies are like our children as well, so I get that, canine. But yeah, not having your child and not knowing where he is, not knowing if he's being taken care of, I can't imagine the pain that Seth is going through. I can't imagine it at all. And I will say this, I can't imagine the guilt that Katie feels. She's got to live with that. Right? Whether it was by her hand or not, she knows the truth. So that guilt must be pretty overwhelming a year later. But it doesn't compare to the grief that Seth has got to feel. I know. Right, Ginger? Yeah. And in the early days, remember, it seemed like he would be falling asleep on some of the channels and stuff. Well, yeah, because I imagine the minute he tries to lay down, his mind is going every place. It's average of 3.6 million babies born a year in the U.S. Average of 460,000 children go missing each year. That's roughly over 10% of new births that go missing each year. That's a really good facts there, SRB. Yeah. And how and why? Parental neglect, parental abuse, trafficking, runaway, carried away. I mean, how and why, right? If Sebastian is missing to keep her marriage, now she may have lost everything. I have one word for that. See ya. Nobody would ever tell me it's him or me, because I'd be like, bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Nobody would ever ask me to choose them over my children. And if that's what she did, I'll just leave that there. Yes, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend too. I know that it's a horrible statistic, right? And, you know, I see this little hand here holding the fist up, and it's like, oh, our babies, they need to be protected. I don't care how old they are. Absolutely, Melissa, kids first. Our children are what's important. If Sebastian has been as important to Katie, well, we wouldn't have seen what we saw at TRH, would we? Where she didn't even care. Right? But, so I don't know. Yes. We were looking into it together, and yeah, wait until you hear about the other case on the 31st. You guys are just going to cry. I don't like covering that stuff, guys, but I feel it's important. I feel it's important that people are aware of what's going on. You know, sometimes we just go about our lives and we stick our head in the sand and we don't pay attention to what's going on around us. And then when election day comes, you know, we haven't really done our due diligence on who we're voting for. And I'm not talking the presidential election. I am talking about the ones that matter, our local and county and state elections, guys. Those are the ones that matter. That's where it counts. And I don't mean to be political, but that's where it's got to start, right? Yeah. It was. And to find out all I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I could show video after video just in Tennessee alone, guys. I mean, the last video I showed was 8 minutes long, and did I show half of it? Yeah, I showed almost all of it, but still. There was more, a lot more. A lot more. But I agree with the statement. The fight to protect our children is one we must fight together. We have to stand together, united, and fight for our children, because obviously there are parents out there who aren't. And when we see those parents who aren't, maybe we need to be making the calls. Welfare checks, DCS, and hold them accountable, right? That's a really good point, SRB. When we only pay attention to our mainstream media on the TV daily, we're so blind to all the terrible things that are going on around us. It's true. It's true. Because we're not, you know, we may only see our local stuff, right? I have to say, when I first moved to Nashville, I was a little bit shell shocked by the news, because every day there was multiple people getting red-rummed. And it had been a long time since I lived in a big city like that to hear that, right? Because I grew up in Chicago, which we all know now is one of the worst places for crime. But at first I was shell shocked. You know, it was like, oh, yeah, this is a bigger city. But many of us who live in smaller towns are listening to local news. We're not hearing all the garbage out there, right? And even if we're in bigger cities, we're only hearing local. We're not hearing what's going on all over the country. We're not hearing that DCS is understaffed and underpaid everywhere in the United States, right? On the brink of collapse. I mean, we don't know, right? So anyway, guys, I'm going to let it go for tonight. Let you guys have a little bit of time before we jump on Seth's channel. Hope to see you in there to support him. And we will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, guys. Thank you for watching another episode of Granny's Crime Busters. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to subscribe and like and even share the content. You can follow us on any of our other social media platforms at YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We really appreciate you guys, and you can also email us at granniescrimebusters@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.